What's up guys, this is the one you've been waiting for. It's the Nexus 4 on the right versus the HTC One on the left. Now just to mention it, I have actually gone back to stock ROM and stock kernel on my Nexus 4 just to make this a fair test. If I quickly dive into the settings here, you'll see that everything is back to stock. Android version, baseband, kernel, it's all back to stock. So there's no funny business, there's no overclocking, there's no special Franco or Trinity kernels making these results better or worse. So yeah, this is going to be a fair test. Okay, so before I get into the speed tests, I'm just going to run through some of the specs. The HTC One on the left has a 4.7-inch full 1080p display. The Nexus 4 has a 4.7-inch 720p or 768p display with on-screen buttons, and you can just see the difference with the screen real estate there. It's quite a big difference. You can get rid of these buttons with a custom ROM, but like I said, I got rid of that, so I can't do that here. In terms of processors, the HTC One has the Snapdragon 600, which is a 1.7-inch quad-core processor with the Adreno 320 GPU. The Nexus 4, guys, has the Snapdragon S4 Pro, which is a 1.5 gigahertz CPU, quad-core as well, and it has the Adreno 320 GPU as well. So in terms of hardware, both are fully stocked, both have really good hardware. I think the HTC One does edge it. It has the 1080p display, which, by the way, guys, is absolutely stunning. You really have to see it in real life to believe it. It's just the best I've ever seen in any mobile device. Super LCD 3 is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, enough of the bullshit, guys. We're just going to get into the brass balls of this and jump into the speed test. Okay, so we're going to start off with the app speed test, guys. I'm going to open up the same app on both devices and see which one opens up first. We'll make sure all of these are clear. You can see there's nothing in the recent apps. So we'll start this off with Chrome. So I'll try and hit these as best as I can at the same time. 1, 2, 3, go. Both are very quick. It does look like the HTC One was fastest to load this screen. It got to this screen the fastest. The Nexus 4 was a tad behind. So first win is definitely to the HTC One. We'll leave that open in both. We'll open up Dolphin browser. 1, 2, 3, go. Slightly different animations there, guys, and that was kind of really hard to call. I do think the animation started on the Nexus 4 first, but I think the HTC One was ready with this page first. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly 100% because it was hard to look at both at the same time. So I'll close that out and I'll actually do that one again. We'll close Dolphin. Okay, we'll try this again. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, again, pretty much the same thing. The animation was first on the Nexus 4, but the app was ready first on the HTC One. So I'm going to give that 2-0 to the HTC. Next up, we've got Gmail. 1, 2, 3, go. Again, the HTC One was just about, I don't know, like half a second in front of the Nexus 4, and that really is all it is, guys. It's that tight. So it is 3-0 to the HTC One, but the Nexus 4 is so close behind it, it's actually silly. So next up, Play Store. 1, 2, 3, go. Again, just a tad in front is the HTC One. It's pretty much 4-0. So far, it's a whitewash. Even though it's so close, guys, there really is hardly any difference between these. You're not going to pick one because the other one is actually a lot faster. It really isn't. So we'll open up YouTube now. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, this is tight. And the Nexus 4 is first, so it finally gets on the board right there. So it's 4-1. Definitely loaded up the feed before the HTC One did. So that's interesting. Next up is Maps. 1, 2, 3, go. Very tight. I'm going to give that one a tie, guys. That was so damn tight, so I'll give both a point. It's 5-2 here. What else have we got? Okay, here's Play Music. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, and the HTC One definitely beat out the Nexus 4. Again, not by a lot, but it was first. So, yeah, 6-2. We'll open up a few more. We'll see if we've got anything else we can open up here. Lastly, guys, we've got Quadrant. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, go. That looks pretty much identical. Again, I can't really tell you. We'll try that again. We'll clear them both out of memory, and we'll try that one again. I think it's just too damn close to call, to be honest with you. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, again, the animation looks like it starts first on the Nexus 4. HTC One's a little bit behind on the animation, but then it catches up on the actual app loading, and they pretty much load identically at the same time. So there you have it. Now, the HTC One did win the app speed test. It was in front, but it was in front just by a bit. Now, let's not forget it is powering a 1080p screen. It does have a stronger processor. The Nexus 4 has a higher Android version, 4.2.2, a clean Android version, whereas this has Sense bogging it down. So they kind of even out in terms of power. And you can see it is just a little bit in front of the Nexus 4. The Nexus 4 is still holding its own very well in opening apps. Okay, so it's time to test out the browser performance on both these devices. I'm using Dolphin with Jetpack on both devices to try and make this as fair as possible. So yeah, you can see I'm about to clear the caches here, so exit on both. And they're gone. And now we'll close out the app, and we'll move. As we're here, guys, we might as well just do another quick app speed test. We'll try and open up Dolphin at the same time. 1, 2, 3, go. You can definitely see the animation starts on Nexus 4 first, but HTC One finishes loading the app and getting to this page first. So yeah, so let's load up some sites. Okay, so you can see I've got GSM Arena here. I'm going to click these both at the same time. Boom. And the HTC One was definitely first there, followed slightly behind by the Nexus 4. We'll just load up the desktop version here. Try and hit these again at the same time. 1, 2, 3, go. They're off. Okay, this is tight. This is very tight. It does look like HTC One is done. Nexus 4 is done, so definitely a win for the HTC One there. Okay, we've got the Verge in both address bars. Try and hit go. 1, 2, 3, go. They're off. Both going to the mobile site. HTC One is in front, followed slightly behind by the Nexus 4. And yeah, pretty much exactly the same, guys. HTC One won just. Nexus 4 follows up. We'll load up the desktop site. 1, 2, 3, go. Pretty close. Okay, this is tight. HTC One first. Nexus 4 again, just a tad behind. This is pretty much how it's been the whole test, guys. So you can see both the phones are actually really damn quick. The HTC One does have the faster processor, and it's only just showing in actual performance. The Nexus 4 is definitely holding its own. So yeah. Okay, we'll do one more of these, guys. We've got Android Central here. 1, 2, 3, go. Well, again, the HTC One is just finishing in front of the Nexus 4. We'll hit the full version. And this one's very tight. Again, HTC One is in front. And yeah, the HTC One is definitely finished properly here. You've got all the stuff. The Nexus 4 is just behind. And now they're both finished officially. So there you have it, guys. Both devices are very fast in terms of browsing. If you have to have the fastest, the HTC One is about 1 or 2 seconds faster than the Nexus 4 in loading up websites. To be honest, you're not going to notice that much of a difference, but if you have to have the fastest device, the HTC One is just a tad faster. Okay, so we're just going to run some benchmarks here. The first one we'll run is Quadrant. Open these up at the same time again. Boom. Hit run benchmark. And here they go. So already you can see the HTC One has taken the lead. The Snapdragon 600 is showing its power here. One thing to note, guys, the Android version is different here. It's 4.1.2 versus 4.2.2 on the Nexus 4. That does seem to make a difference. Quadrant doesn't seem to like the Nexus 4 at all. It scores way under what it should do. I mean, you can just see it struggling so badly right here, whereas the HTC One is powering through. I'm not quite sure why that is. But don't take Quadrant as kind of a be-all and end-all. It really isn't. So, yeah. Okay, you can see the HTC One is finished here. We're still on the planet test on the Nexus 4. So we'll just press yes here while we wait. You can see it scores 12,232. Pretty amazing score if you ask me. It's off the charts. Nothing even comes close. Nexus 4 is done. And you can see it scores still at the top, but it scores 4,766. Now, if you ask me, you really shouldn't take these into account because that is ridiculous. There is no way the Nexus 4 is that far behind the HTC One. We've seen it in app speed tests and the browser. Yes, it is quicker, the HTC One, by a few seconds. There's no way it's that much quicker in terms of performance in this benchmark. So, yeah, we'll move on. We'll open up Antutu, guys. We'll try and do this one at the same time as well. 1, 2, 3, go. HTC One in front. I think that's been the theme of the video. And we'll hit test of these at the same time. I will skip this one, guys, because it's long. And if we just check out the graphics here, you can see the HTC One is locked in at 60, the Nexus 4 56. Okay, and here we go. You can see both are finished. The HTC One scores 24,531 versus the Nexus 4's 17,254. So in terms of both benchmarks I've run, the HTC One is running away with it. I can score higher on Antutu if I use a custom ROM, but you know, the HTC One with a custom ROM may even score more. So yeah, got a low battery on the Nexus 4, never mind. You can see the CPU score is dramatically different. You can see it over here is 11,166 compared to the Nexus 4, 6,168. Pretty damn huge, if you ask me. You can see basically the HTC One is beating it everywhere. So yeah, we'll submit both of these and we'll check them out in a list. Now, like I said, I mean, yes, the HTC One is kind of pounding the Nexus 4 in terms of benchmarks, but you know, does it really matter? Probably not. You've seen both devices are really damn quick. You know, there isn't much between them. It definitely doesn't seem like this much between them in terms of numbers. Just putting these numbers side by side here and you can see the differences. Now, one thing to note is the Nexus 4 does seem to have an overheating problem on the stock Google kernel. So that might have occurred here. I'm sure it can score a little bit higher, considering this was running at 1080p and this was running at 678 or 768, sorry, and it didn't beat it in the graphical test, which it should do. But yeah, so, you know, don't take everything into account when it comes to these benchmarks. That it's not that different when it comes to performance. But nonetheless, the HTC One did win the benchmark test. Okay, so let's move on to the screen now. I really think the HTC One has the best screen of any mobile device, including the Nexus 4. Now, I'm not trying to say the Nexus 4 screen is bad. It really isn't. It's actually one of the best screens I've used. But the Super LCD 3 is definitely the best screen I've used. It's got the 1080p resolution. Everything is super sharp on it. It just looks a little bit sharper than that on the Nexus 4. It's got a ridiculous pixel density and the colors are very vivid, but they still stay true to life, unlike AMOLED displays. So I've definitely got to give the win to the HTC One in terms of screen. It's fantastic and you really have to see it in real life to believe it. Now, I'm just going to quickly open up a YouTube clip here and show you the differences. So might as well just do a little speed test here. And 1, 2, 3, go. Pretty close. I don't even know which one won, so I'm just going to leave it. We'll start up Big Bunny here, and let's check out how they look. So let's not forget the HTC One is full 1080p display, so it does actually have the advantage of showing this in full 1080p. Now, I don't know how this is coming through on the camera, but I just think the colors are a little bit more vivid over here. In terms of brightness level, guys, I've got this set to the same brightness, about in the middle. So, yeah. Now, if you're comparing them directly at the same brightness level like we are right here, the Nexus 4 looks a little bit, and I mean a little bit, washed out, whereas the HTC One seems to get these colors spot on. They're still very vivid, but they're still bright enough. You can see a little bit too much of him here, whereas the colors are just perfect, I think, on the HTC One. Now, both screens, like I said, are very good, but the winner I am going to give the HTC One. There's no question in terms of sound quality, guys. The boom sound on this HTC One is unparalleled. If I just play this one for a bit, I'll then turn that down, and we'll play the Nexus 4 one. It just doesn't have the same quality. It just doesn't have the same depth of character. It's just definitely not worth it in terms of the sound. The HTC One easily wins on sound. So there you have it, guys. I definitely have to give the HTC One the win in terms of screen. Now, I don't know how well, again, this is coming through on the camera, but you have to see the screen in real life to believe it. So there you have it, guys. That is the HTC One versus the Nexus 4. This was more of a kind of speed test than really a major comparison versus the two. If you want to see anything else, just let me know. But the HTC One does win against the Nexus 4, not by a ridiculous margin. It does have some really nice stuff like the 1080p display, and the boom sound is fantastic. The Nexus 4 can't compete with that. In terms of performance, yes, the HTC One is faster than the Nexus 4, but it's not that much faster. And let's not forget, the Nexus 4 comes at a fantastic price point. Let me just mention something about storage as well, guys. The storage on the Nexus 4 comes in 8 and 16 gigabytes, no external storage. The HTC One comes in 32 and 64 gigabytes, but again, no SD card. So you get more storage on the HTC One. You do pay more money. I think this is around £490, whereas this is about 280. So there's a big difference in price. It's such a difficult choice. I do think the HTC One is the better phone, but the Nexus 4 is right there. You know, it's got stock Android. A lot of people won't like Sense, and that is something that will come into your decision. So make sure you think about that. Don't forget, the Nexus devices always get the latest Android devices. You have to wait for HTC to push the stuff. In terms of pure hardware and pure specs and pure performance, yes, the HTC One is the better device. But the Nexus 4 is definitely clipping at the heels. It's very, very close. Both absolutely fantastic devices. Peace out.